All right, well, we just broke some news. So if anyone's made it to 42 minutes into this thing, a little sneak peek of what's coming in the future.
Welcome to the Automotive Advantage. Grow your business and get smarter in just 1 hour.
Today on the Automotive Advantage, we have Garrett Reed, AmericanMuscleHD. I think everyone knows Garrett. We know Garrett. We've known Garrett for a long time. We're excited to have you on the pod today. But if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh no, this is going to be a story of how Garrett made it and where he started and how long that took and blah, 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 blah. It's not going to be that. We're going to talk about the ins and outs of becoming a content creator, growing a following, what it looks like today to be a content creator versus what it looked like in the past, and kind of where you see this going 6 months, year, 5 years, 10 years, and really try to give people actionable tips here. So Garrett, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. As you two have both made it very clear, you did find me and things. So it's kind of cool to full circle 13 years later doing things like this. It's really cool.
All right, now we have it on tape. We can just cut the pod here. That's all I really
wanted. All we needed to know. That's all you guys cared about.
Yeah, we did. We did.
This was back when the internet was brand new. Instagram wasn't even a thing. And what caught your eye about this guy?
Well, I think what is most interesting about the beginning times here was like how naive we all were to what Instagrammers and content creators and influencers, like we barely even had words for most of the stuff back then, right? So like, Garrett, for you, obviously you started really young in the Instagram game. You just had a page where you were just making things. You probably never saw it going to this level, but what was the initial thought of how big this could have actually gotten when you started the page?
Well, I mean, this is somewhat of an origin story, I guess, but like there was a guy that I went to these local car meets with that had a page, and he had been running it for about a year before I did, because I think 2012 was when Instagram first came out, and I got mine in 2013. This guy had a channel, it was a truck page or whatever. It had 14,000 followers. I'm like, good Lord, that's like 5 million today. I was like, how in the world do you have 14,000 people follow you? So that intrigued me. So, I mean, I didn't have an idea of what this could ever get to. I just wanted to try it. And it was just like, all right, well, whatever happens, happens. And as they say, the kind of rest is history. I don't remember any of the milestone dates of like, oh yeah, I got 50,000 today and then 100,000. I don't. Only thing I remember is when Chevrolet Performance followed me. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I made it. Now everything else doesn't matter. I'm here, I'm that guy now. That was like the coolest thing, because I was just like, that was the first like real verified, subsidiary to an OEM. And I was like, okay, this is sick. And then we met shortly after that.
Where did you put some thought, but any thought into the name? Like, was it just like, oh, I'm just getting an Instagram handle and I'll see what happened? Was it that you thought it was a niche? Was it just what you were into? How much went into, because being AmericanMuscleHD is a big deal now.
Yeah.
But tell us about how it started.
Well, the original channel name wasn't even AmericanMuscleHD. It was just like America Muscle or something. I don't even remember. It was a different name. It was along the same premise. But then the page got hacked so many years into it, maybe a few years into it, and whoever hacked it got that name. And then I can't remember if they added the HD to change it from the original so that they could have the original name, or I added the HD. I think they did. So shout out to whoever hacked me, because I guess it's a household name now. But it's like, that's kind of how it came about. So I did it. The name came about without my doing, I guess. So.
And back then, describe what was even possible from an organizational thing of an Instagram channel. Like today, there are teams, there are salespeople, there are content creators, there are account reps, there's all these things. But back when you started, there's careers, yeah.
I mean, truly.
But when you started, it was, businesses weren't even allowed on Instagram, right? Yeah. So just give us like what was even possible back then, and then how that's grown into today.
I don't know what was possible back then, truly, because I didn't have any thought process as to where this was going to go. I just was doing it for the fun of it, for the love of the game, so to speak. So I just did it to try it. And then once I saw, like Chevrolet Performance follow me and, some other accounts a couple years in, I was just like, okay, this has weight to it. This has some value, so to speak. But before then, I had no plan. Like, I didn't say, okay, yeah, in 5 years, I want to have 1 million followers and I want to, be well known within the automotive industry. Again, I didn't know that this was going to take off, and I didn't think that I was going to work in any capacity with manufacturers or aftermarket, companies and such like that, building cars or reviewing cars. So it was just something to do. It really had no standing behind anything other than that.
Talk to me. It was a passion. That's what you started out with, right?
Yeah.
And you just love cars, and
Right.
you're just like everybody else. And now, walk me through what's it look like to be a professional content creator? Like, where's the payment? Where's the money come from? What are the deals like? Like, give me the overarching, and then we'll probably break it down for each channel of stream of income that you have.
Yes, there's a few different ways. Different platforms have their own version of monetization directly from them, right? Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, I guess Snapchat. So they all have their own unique ways of monetization through content creation through their app. And then you obviously have the brand deals. You work with companies and you're kind of a spokesperson for them in some capacity, whether it's just creating content with, bringing awareness to their brand, or you're like truly the face of their brand, right? They're the one that, there's a bunch of different content creators you can reference to that, but you are their brand, like, child, so to speak. And then you have, advertising deals where like something that's a little more unique for my page because it's not strictly just me. I share a lot of content that's not necessarily mine. And, there will be companies that'll ask me just to, highlight and promote either their events, their product, whatever the case may be, which it can kind of cross lines in the sense of where I can just share a piece of content that they've created, or I can be in the content. If it's something where I'm attending the event, I've done that with SEMA, I've done that with PRI, hopefully HPX in the future. It's things like that where I'm highlighting how I'm going to be there in attendance, promoting what the event is, telling people when it is, what it is, such and such like that. Or it could simply just be me, sharing a flyer. I may not be able to make it, but just giving people a heads up about where this event may be or that they may be interested in it. Same thing with products. It could be like a new product is coming out and I may not have it in hand yet, but it's just like notifying this new thing's coming out. Or it could be where I'm working with Holley. That's a big company that I've worked with in the past where I've utilized their parts on a bunch of my different builds. So throughout the build process, I'm, highlighting what the product is, its application, my thoughts and, experiences with it. So there's a few different avenues that you can, that I've done in that regards.
I want to back up a little bit because I think one of the biggest personal brand changes that I've seen over the last decade, you were behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew who you were. Mm-hmm. It was just this big American Muscle HD, and you did a ton of cool stuff. You didn't know what was going to come out next from you.
Right.
And then at some point, we meet Garrett.
Yeah.
There's a public debut of you as a person. Talk through how that happened.
Well, being friends with a lot of other content creators in this space, I saw the disparity between what I was doing and what they were doing in terms of the growth that they were experiencing. Working with companies, getting brand deals, just overall growth. I realized that I was lacking that personability. Yes, people knew that I was there was a person behind American Muscle HD because I was constantly responding to comments. It wasn't just, I'd post something and I'd disappear. Like, I would interact with my followers, I'd read DMs and such like that. But there was never a face. There was never somebody to be like, this is the guy that runs the page. They just knew that there was somebody. They didn't know if it was a team or anything like that. Sometimes you'd hear my voice, but that was it. So I just had to make this change. And I think it was the start of 2023 that I made that official video of like, who is the man behind American Muscle HD. And I get, still to this day, to your point, I get so much feedback from that. When I did that video, I got so many messages, either personally, like text messages or DMs, where people were like, man, I really appreciate that you did that, because now that kind of gives me the confidence to do the same thing. The people that were, in the same space, not necessarily hiding behind their account, but like they just didn't put forth that effort to expose themselves as to who they were and what they did. And so I was glad that I was able to give people the courage to do the same thing. But yeah, I just realized that was the next step I needed to take in order to progress in this industry and to, I guess, get to that next level, and following the steps of what my other friends were doing that are content creators that started their brands with the intentionality of them being the brand. Yeah, they may have a different name. Like you look at people like Cletus, right? That's not his name. His name is Garrett Mitchell. But he started this whole thing off a persona from a joke, and it sure as heck worked out. I mean, the guy is rolling. He's got his own racetrack, all the things. So it worked out for him. But he did it with intentionality. I think that's a little bit of where, like you said, I was behind the ball, which is fine. It happened the way it happened for a reason. But I didn't go into it with any purpose. It was just for fun. And so until I realized that it had some weight, I still was a little like hemming and hawing on how it should move. And then I finally made the decision, in the last 2-3 years. But to your point, I have personally seen how much it's changed for me within the landscape now that I have exposed myself and put myself out there. Because now there's somebody that people can attach themselves to. More and more people come up to me in person at car shows now. They know my name, that was a weird thing first and foremost. But it's cool because, now people can relate to somebody. It's not just a name of a page and some voice. So
I think this is such an important point because there's a lot of people who grew up with the mentality of like, you don't want to ever take credit for the thing. You don't want to be the thing. You work for a brand and the brand is above you. And that was definitely an old school mentality in the agency game. And as you were growing brands, it was like, no one should be the face of this thing. It should just be a brand on its own. And then early Instagram days, people tried to do that. And then now we've seen this shift where like, if you're not your own personal brand, if there's no face there, it's so hard for people to connect with that because people like people. We're social creatures. And like, we hear from people a lot like, well, I don't want to be on camera and I don't want to do that. And it's like, you can totally run a faceless brand, but it unlocks it. It literally supercharges as soon as there's a real person there. Tell us how many deals you're doing today based on your personal connections with people versus like in DMs. Because I remember back in the day, all content creators were just DMs. It's like no one wanted to get on the phone, no one wanted to meet face to face. And everyone, I think, hoped that would work. Like, cool, I'm never going to have to interact with anybody. I can just DM them and then that's it. Yeah. And now, if you don't know people, if you're not shaking hands with people, if you're not hanging out with people, how detrimental is that to your business model?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I tell people all the time, and it's ironic because you guys know me, for a long time. I'm a very sociable person. So it's really ironic that I kind of hid behind the thing for a long time. Because when I'm out and about, I mean, I tell people all the time, in order to make it in any industry, in any, capacity, you have to be social. If you don't inherently have that talent and that ability, you have to fake it almost. You have to be able to turn it on and off. You have to be able to walk into a room and be approachable or be able to approach. You can't be that recluse that's standing off in the corner because nobody wants to go talk to that guy. They can see, it's energy. That energy thing is real. If you don't have that approachable energy, people aren't going to want to talk to you. So, there's a fine line too. Obviously, you don't want to be like a golden retriever to everybody, and that's kind of weird. But, but my point is, you have to find that balance of being able to, walk into a function, either not have to talk to everybody, at least be able to seek out the people that you need to talk to them, do the thing, peace out. But you have to be able to do that because if you are just relying on, like you said, emails and even phone calls, that's not going to get you anywhere. Deals happen when you meet people and shake their hand. I have talked to so many people over the phone and emails over the course of this 13 years or whatever. But I'd argue that the majority of the deals happen once I've shook that person's hand and they get to know me personally and see my personality and how I carry myself and all that kind of stuff. Because things can be misconstrued or things can be assumed over virtual interaction. But once you meet somebody in person, you can see how this person is, how they carry themselves. Like, is this somebody that I want to have represent my brand? Because you can tell a lot of that by just first impression. So I think that for me has definitely impacted a lot of how I've gotten brand deals and made the relationships that I've had for so long within this industry.
Well, and one behind the scenes part of this job is that a lot of it is done on trips, right? Like, you just went to France, right? You just went to Thermal, you go all these places. And Jamie, you've been on the client side of bringing people on trips. And unfortunately or fortunately, you can have all the followers in the world, but at a certain point, someone's going down that list going like, oh man, Garrett's a cool guy. Garrett would be fun to have on this trip. I'd love to hang out with Garrett in France. And, oh, this page is big, but we've never met this person. Like, how would this person be in this environment? It's gonna be hot, it's gonna be whatever. So like, the more people know you, the chances of getting invited to things is so much higher. Like, most of what we do is events or on the road or small trips, right? You just got back from the GTD drive. So I know that people don't like that because they're like, well, my page is big and I should just be able to do this through DMs. But like, I think you're proof of what you were in quiet and what you are as a personal brand and how much that's grown, right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I talk about it a lot where, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best at everything at what I do or anything I do, but there are aspects of me that I know excel. But I know for a fact, and I'll sit here and say that there's people that have way more followers than me that may even do this content creator thing better than me, but they're not me. Not to sound cocky, but they're not me, right? So like, I know that people like me, they rock with me. My personality is that people accept me as my personality and all kind of stuff. So I feel like that gets me invited to all these things, continually gets me invited. And so my point being is that you don't have to have the biggest follower base. Yes, there are people that have way bigger followings than me, but they're not getting invited to the things that I'm getting invited to. But that's because, one, I've proven the value that I have, and two, because I show up and people like me. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those, it's definitely one of those things where you have to, if you have the big follower base, but you wonder why you're not getting invited, maybe it's because you're not outside. You got to go outside. You got to go meet these people. You may not get directly invited to the event, that you want to go to, but if there's a free Ford event in the city that you're in, go to it. You never know who you might meet. You might meet somebody from marketing. You might meet somebody from PR, but you have to express your interest. There's been so many times, because you guys know this, in the PR and comms divisions of a lot of these OEMs, there's a lot of turnover. But what's crazy is a lot of lateral, like people go laterally. So you may see somebody that leaves GM and goes to Ford, or Ford to, Stellantis. So you make those relationships, and it's just, I've had this happen to me where I've had somebody that was at GM, made the connection there, they moved to Ford, they bring me with me immediately. Like, as soon as they get the position and they solidify it, they call me up, hey, I'm at Ford now, I just want to let you know you're locked in. Immediately the next thing they have, he's inviting me to it. And that's what happened. I had a guy from GM, and he moved to Ford, and he wrote me into everything Ford. And within a short year, I've been to F1 Vegas, I went to Le Mans, and I got invited to the GTD drive. And what's ironic is none of those events are his division. He introduced my name to his other counterparts and told them, like, hey, this is my guy, he's good, bring him to the first thing if you like him. And then it's just like a snowball effect. So it's all relationships. And so I'm super thankful, like, it's circling back, I'm super thankful that I made that choice to have put my face out there so that there's something that they can look up and see. So whether or not they've met me in person yet, they can see me on camera. And that's kind of a first introduction, until they meet me in person.
Now there's a downside to being boys with the boys. And it's that it makes it harder to bring money into the equation sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about the downside of being friendly with people and not having an agent and not having a rep. And when it comes down to like, okay, and now it costs this, just the temptation to be like, we're boys, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
So I don't want everyone to think that like, oh, okay, so success is just being boys with everybody. It's like, what are the downsides there?
Yeah, I mean, being friendly with folks and becoming friends is a great thing, right? You can call on people, you can get invited to the things, and invitations and experiences are great. I'm not going to sit here and deny any of that. I mean, I've done more in my 31 years than most people have done in their entire lives, and I'm beyond thankful and blessed for that. But with that being said, you know, early on, yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks. You know what I'm saying? But then obviously I'm 31 years old. You know, life is expensive anymore, especially, you know, you got all the things and the hobbies that we have, right? So it's like, you know, you got cars to build, and that's the other part about being a content creator. You want to stay relevant. Like, not only am I just doing content about new cars and new products and stuff, I'm building cars. So I'm double dipping, I feel like, in terms of how I create my content. And then it also doesn't help that I have a high standard of what I want my things to be. So that's content, that's my cars. So it's like, yeah, could I build a half-ass, you know, race car? Sure. But no, I don't want that. I'm friends with all these big builders. I want my car to be almost as equally as good as those. So, but to your point, it's tough because, yeah, companies aren't just going to willingly just throw money out if they don't have to. You got to think about it. Businesses, to make money, you're not going to just be like, oh, well, if this guy's not asking for money, we're not going to just pay him. You know what I mean? So they're going to be like, yeah, just come on the trip. I'm like, but I got to, you know, so it's such a hard thing because I have to pick and choose now. Before, I would just be like, whatever, this is all part of the, you know, the growing pains. I got to go on events, and hopefully they'll be like, yeah, and here's $15,000 for, you know, that's not how it works. So I do have to pick and choose. Some events are worth it because they're just, you know, like GTD thing. 24 total journalists went on that. I was beyond blessed that I was one of them. But at the other point, I'm like, okay, there's other ones where I'm like, yeah, they're like, you should just come out to this. And I'm like, I'm good, because there's I don't see any value to be there if I'm not getting paid. Sometimes there is value that I can do content or something that could make me money on the back end or whatever. But I have to tell people, I'm like, no, I can't do it. Or I come back and I'm like, hey, this is actually my budget for this now. And that was an awkward thing because they were like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you pay Jimmy over here for this, you know, why am I not getting paid? You know? And so I'm like, I've learned the game now. It's like before, you know, I probably was a little naive to how it all went, but you know, you got to start asking questions. You got to kind of start nudging your counterparts and be like, yeah, so what's going on? I mean, I know you're making money and whatnot. It's a tight, closed lip thing. People don't want to divulge anything. And that's the thing that's honestly kind of stupid in this whole content creator thing. People are so to the vest about like expenses and finances and stuff like that. It's like, why? That's really detrimental to the rest of us, because yeah, you might have figured out the sauce, but now you got to worry about me, which I may be an equal counterpart in terms of content and all this kind of stuff. But I come in and I lowball the hell out of a company, and then they're like, oh, well, Garrett just charges $5,000, and why are you charging $50,000? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you just not tell me you're making $50,000 so I come in and I'm not undercutting the hell out of you? Because they're going to go with the guy that's cheaper, right? Business wise. So it makes sense to be outwardly vocal about how this stuff works, because there's no website to say, hey, Garrett makes this much, Forest Reviews makes this much, Cletus, you know, there's none of that. So it's really a lot of a guessing game. They have the algorithms, they have like the things where you put in like your follower count and how, your engagement, and it kicks you out a number. The numbers are stupid. Like if you look up what I should be making like $100,000 a post, but companies aren't paying that. You know what I mean? And very few people are getting that. So it's like, you can't use that metric because automotive companies are going to come back and be like, nah, that's wild, bro. Especially aftermarket companies. Now, OEMs could throw that kind of bread, but it has to be like a commercial, you know what I mean? Or some humongous production, which I have yet to be a part. I've done one big thing with an OEM, but it wasn't even to that extent. So it's just this weird like landscape to be in when it comes to money and like asking for it, knowing how much to ask. And again, not having an agent. That's a huge thing. Do I know I need one? Yes. But you have to find that person that you can trust to speak for you in that scenario, right? For so long, I've been that person that's directly in contact with the companies that I've worked with, where there's just like, it's direct line of communication. Now I'm going to come in and be like, yeah, that project's going to be on, holler at this dude. He's going to handle everything for me. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, dude, like, I don't know the ins and outs of that. He does. I'm trying to make the most money. But then that guy could be a pain in the neck, and it could shoot me in the foot. because then they're gonna be like, nah, we don't work with Garrett anymore. He's got this guy was a piece of shit. Excuse my language. I don't know if I can cuss on this. But yeah, like, this guy's a pain in the neck. We don't want to deal with him. So we're not gonna deal with Garrett anymore. So that's my biggest fear, is that I'm gonna, that could ruin a relationship because they're making it complicated.
Jamie, you've done a lot on the other side of those deals. Like, how should someone be valuing themselves? Or I think one of the ways to look at it is like, well, how do other little niches within the industry value themselves, right? We see how PR values themselves, or how do you see this from a business perspective?
Yeah, the game has changed. You're an individual. When I did product placement and ad buys at GM, it was for corporations that had sales guys and had ad rates, and they had regularly published magazines, or they had TV shows. So a lot of it is, I'm being real candid, it's risky to get involved with an influencer. And Freiberger touched on this one of the past episodes about manufacturers are just throwing money at a bunch of influencers for no money. None of you are getting paid. You might get some free parts, and then whoever really fights hard and pays off for them, that's the direction they go. But what's the best deal you've had? Like, break down like something you're really proud of for OEM or aftermarket that you think you really delivered on. What comes to mind?
Well, I think one of the biggest deals from like the company that it was and what the project was that Dodge deal I did. And it was not even a direct relationship, or not a direct reasoning behind my followership, if that makes sense. I had a relationship and friendship with the people within Dodge in the marketing team. And so they knew me and they knew my talent. So it wasn't even my follower count, and my account really didn't mean anything in this aspect. They just knew that I was good on camera and that it would work for this application. So it was basically a virtual interactive experience with the new Dodge Charger, right? And I was the host in this virtual space and world showcasing what the car was. So like, there was all these little interactive things where you can open the car up and you talk about the powertrains and whatever the case may be, colors and options and such. And it was cool. Like, it was a 2-day filming thing. We did it in LA. It was like green screen. I'd never done it before. And it was super cool because it was a unique experience. It was never, the whole project had never been done before. And I got a lot of praise from it. They said I did a great job. Like, it was a 2-day shoot. I finished it in a day and a half. So I finished, it was so many prompts I had to read. It was broken up over 2 days. I finished all of day one and like a third of the way through day two on day one. And then we get to lunchtime on day two and we wrapped up. And they said that never happens on these types of things. And I was just like, yeah, because y'all weren't working with me. You know what I'm saying? But so, like, that was a validation to me. I was like, okay, I was nervous going into it just because I had never done anything like that before. But once I got settled in and started doing it, I was like, oh, this is easy. So that was another avenue of what opportunity and skill set that I realized I had. And I knew that was something that I could pursue potentially beyond just doing social media. Like, that's something that's off, it may be because of it, but like, it's not directly related. So that was one of the biggest things that biggest projects that I was involved in that I took away from it. I was like, yeah, I was good at that, And then I had a deal this year with Mecum where I was attending their auctions and basically helping them make like third-party content. Like, they have their own social team, but I was kind of aiding them, utilizing my social media following to produce content of vehicles they had there in conjunction with their social team. And we would do collaborative content because, they have other personalities that they employ, like Chris Jacobs, that does more of their TV stuff. So we did some collaborative stuff for their YouTube longer form where we'd walk around the show and we'd find, we'd either do pre or post, like we'd find a collection of a vehicle, like a certain person's collection that's going across the auction, and we'd go and we'd just pick out a few of our favorites and we'd talk about them. And that was the first time they had done that as a segment for their YouTube, and they said they had great success. Like, they had a lot of views and people seemed to like the banter between the two of us. And it was just our opinions on the cars. And, we talk a little about facts because Chris is very knowledgeable, having done this for so long, about a lot of the cars. And then we would just, again, talk about how we liked them and what we thought they would go for, whatever. So that was a huge deal for me because I had worked with Meekum early on, like in 2017, again, kind of at the start of companies working with content creators. And we only worked for one event, and they didn't, whoever was employed at the time doing the influencer management of sorts, they didn't know how to judge the results off of one show, and they felt like they didn't maybe get anything valuable from it. But you guys know, like, anytime a company partners with a content creator, and this is what I told them when we had talks at the beginning of this year going into this, I said, look, when we first did this, we only did one show. For whatever reason you guys didn't see value, a lot of times you're not going to see a humongous return on the first thing you do with anybody. It's just, that's not how it works. So I said, from a legitimacy standpoint of you guys and me, we have to make this longer than one event, because then it shows like, hey, okay, it wasn't just a transactional thing. They didn't just bring this guy and pay him a check just to say, I like Meekum, come buy cars here for the first event, because that's what it looks like if you only bring them for one. So I said, we have to do multiple, because it shows that I value what these guys bring and that their organization is legit. And then they're going to say, we value what this guy does and he's good at what he does. So it's a mutually beneficial thing. So that's another thing I think companies got to keep into consideration is like, you have to have some kind of long-term goal with working with a content creator. These one-off, talk about our product right here for $10,000. It's like, okay, but people are going to see past it. They're going to be like, oh man, he just talked about 6 months down the road, what's happening? He's talking about another company that's like a direct competitor to him. It's like, all right, this guy's just doing money, money trading. So you have to be loyal to these companies if you want it to make sense for both sides.
I think that's such a good point. We, aside from the podcast, in our regular world, run into this a lot. We were on a call earlier today that sounds similar to this, where people expect something to happen instantly. And the reality is that it takes a very long time when you're working with influencers, when you're working with brands, when you're working with kind of those upper funnel things to get there. Back in the day, it was just like, yeah, boss, we did a great job. American Muscle came, he posted 6 times, and he has 1 million followers. That was good enough metrics. Today, it's like, well, how many views? How many people followed us? What's the brand lift? All of these more,
It's sales.
It's much more complicated now. Do you feel like more companies are understanding this than in the past? Or do you feel like there's still a lot of education that could be done on both the company and influencer side to make people understand what a valuable relationship should be structured like?
I really think it just depends on who is running the marketing departments. And if they have enough leeway from their bosses, because I see it happen where you could have somebody that's in the know in that marketing role, but then there's somebody that they still have to report to that's not in the know, and they're having to fight tooth and nail for it, and it's super annoying. It's like, all right, well, what's the point? I understand that there's hierarchy and who you have to reach out, get approvals from, but it's like, if you're a marketing manager, a marketing director, I feel like that's a high enough title to control marketing. Why are you having to report to the president of sales about marketing or whatever the heck? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're that person. You're handling marketing. I feel like you should have discretion to do what you need to do to an extent. So it's like, why are you having to constantly bite tooth and nail with this guy or this woman that doesn't know what's going on? Because that does happen. It still happens. I think, I find it now, like a few companies that I work with, they have, people that are understanding, and it seems to be a little easier. But there's still a lot of companies out there, depending on, usually the smaller companies. The bigger companies usually get it because, in this landscape, this is the route that people have to go to. Like, this is, or not go to, but this is the route of advertising and marketing. So I think a lot of companies now are starting to implement people into those roles that understand it. And there's not all that formidable tape that you have to go through to get things going. There's still people, like I said, there's still companies out there I feel like that aren't, that are behind the ball, but I think a lot of them have started to figure it out, and it's getting a little better. But now, again, it's back to the whole thing about whether it's working, it's particularly with OEMs, it's like finding out who you need to talk to about the money. Because a lot of times OEMs aren't the ones you even talk to. Like if you know people in the marketing department, they're not the ones that are going to give you the money. It's the agencies. They employ 50 million agencies for each brand. And you're like, how am I going to know all these people? You know, I may know one agency and that handles like their website stuff. And it's like, well, that's not relevant. I'm not dealing with website stuff. So it's like, you know, it's so much crap that you have to go through to get to the right person sometimes. You think you could be good. You thought you're in there, you know, the marketing person, but that's not enough. So it's so much, man. It's way deeper than even just some of the surface level stuff, at least in the big brands. Smaller brands, it's not that bad, but yeah, it's a lot to go through.
What do you think American Muscle HD is worth as a brand? If someone were to approach you to buy it, what value would you put on your channels?
We're making an offer. To consider this a formal offer.
No, don't tell them yet. Don't.
Oh, yeah. We have a potential buyer.
You know, we had this conversation about our boy way back in the day, and that's a good question, because I feel like before I put my face with the brand, it might have been worth more because it could be assumed by anybody, right? If I were to sell American Muscle HD, the name and everything, to somebody else, they're gonna be like, well, Garrett's not involved with it anymore. Pfft, I don't care. That's what I'm guessing. So I genuinely don't know what it could be worth. What do y'all think it's worth? I'm curious now.
The deal would look where you would stay on, and there would be a transition period.
I see.
So, you know, I think the Doug DeMura, right? The same last name.
Like,
I think I would look at
Doug
that
DeMuro,
model of a
Cars and Bids.
I know that's YouTube, different platform, but I
Yeah.
would look at that model as kind of a way to think about what the value of your company.
Yeah, he had investors and he had people come in and buy Cars and Bids, right? And then he's just like still the face of it, I guess. But he has like does he still have partial ownership? Like he got a buyout and he has partial ownership or something like that? I don't know how that worked. But yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know.
All right, so the bids are open, though. He's accepting bids at this point, is what I'm hearing.
I suppose.
I have $3.
$3?
Yeah,
That's
so-
a Patrick meme.
Yeah.
Leave a comment below.
All right, if you're interested,
Oh, Jesus, this is gonna be
you
bad.
let us know at the
Don't wanna-
Automotive Advantage.
I'm not going to look at those comments.
.com. No, they all filter through us. This is our deal.
Oh,
So
okay. I'm not going to see these. Okay.
Right.
What percentage? We'll figure that out.
10%, obviously.
Oh, I wouldn't have started that low. Why wouldn't you say something in the twos? All right, let me ask you another question. If someone were to come to you as a business partner and say, Garrett, I'm interested in 10xing your empire, what do you need to do that, and how much would it cost for you to go to that level in the creator space?
You mean like what I'd like in terms of if they were to buy, like you said, buy me out, like in
Or partner with you? Who would you hire? Where would you spend money? What assets do you need?
I mean, really, I think my biggest lack is like me and Justin talked about this a bunch, man. My biggest lack is that I'm singularly doing this by myself. I don't have a team. And for a long time, I was like, I like it that way. But then I'm like, I'm not going to get where I want to go without a team. And I think that's just I don't know. It's a trust thing first and foremost, right? Because I built this thing from scratch. It is me. It is my name. It is everything. To have other people come in that speak for me or represent what I do, and I can't control what they do or say, that's hard, because I find out somebody. I tell people all the time, there's three things I don't play around with in this life, and it's my name is one, my money, which I don't make enough of, and then like my people, like, you know, those three things I don't play around with. And so like my name particularly, man, there's been a few times where people have tried to play with my name, and it's like, I can't deal with that. So it's like, if I find out somebody's doing something that could jeopardize my name, I don't know how I'm gonna react. So like, that's the big thing that I have to work on relinquishing, because again, like I have to figure that out if I want to involve other people. Because again, people are going to do what they're going to do, but I have to have some level of trust in those people. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here and continue twiddling my thumbs, complaining about I'm not growing. You know, so it's it's a good question. I mean, me and Justin have talked about it a bunch, and I've known him the longest, man. I know he's out for my best interest, and we've done projects together, and I just know he'd kill it. So I mean, ideally it'd be, him and the people that he works with. We work with a lot of the same people, photographers, videographers, and such. But it's just we have to figure out how it works. So we've been trying to do that.
All right, well, we just broke some news. So if anyone's made it to 42 minutes into this thing, little sneak peek of what's coming in the future. But I'll answer some of that for Garrett. I think what Garrett and American Muscle HD needs next is a content creation arm to create content around Garrett. One of the, as we talk about the evolution of content creators being, singular people with one insecure password logging into Instagram, to being in the Meta business suite, to becoming brands, to becoming doing bigger and bigger deals. The next phase of that is having a team that can create content around you. Gary V, he's got a video team that's around him all the time. Freiberger, he has a video team that's around him all the time, and now he's creating his own content too and editing it. But I think as you're going along this path, the most success we see is people that have a team that can create video around them. Yeah. Alex Taylor, how awesome that her sister is a video content creator.
Ideally.
Yeah, literally the best possible thing. And we talked about this yesterday at the YouTube deal. The people that made it early on in YouTube had a team around them where there was one person on camera, but there was someone coming up with ideas and someone making that content and that. So I think just globally, anybody who's at your level, the next thing is creating your own content and owning that part if you're vertically integrating this thing.
Yeah.
And then 2 is someone to represent you, someone to talk to people and do the dirty, gross work of saying, well, what's the budget? And we actually need more money, and that's not enough money, and he's actually not available this day. And well, we actually need 2 cars because we got to film one this way and one that way. Right? I think those 2 things would unlock a ton for any creator, but certainly someone at your scale. And even the logistics of this, right? Flying around, are you available, right? I think, but now people, if you're along for the ride here, are like, oh no. He was saying there's not a lot of budget for just him. Now how's there going to be budget for the video team and the admin and the thing, right? So I think that's why it's so important to figure out what you're worth early on, because you have to make money along the way to be able to pay for that next step.
Yeah.
Would you agree that that's kind of a path that you think content creators, we see them all the time. I saw them at Roadkill. Most of them have teams now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And Alex Taylor, shout out Alex. She's killing it. I try to give praise to her as often as I can. Again, it helped and worked out that she was able to keep it close to home. Her sister kills it with the pictures and the video and all that kind of stuff. And then she obviously has her parents that are huge supporters of her and help her with a lot of stuff. But you see some of the guys from Roadkill. A lot of times you see it's couples. You got Morgan and you got Jason. So that, husband and wife right there. You got the other guy, Garrett, and his girl. She was doing all the pictures and video behind the scenes. So yeah, that in regards is a beneficial thing. If you have your, either a relative or you have your partner, they can help you, and it's just real close knit. You don't even have to go and try to worry about, searching for that person that's not going to screw you over. Because you can beat your sister up if she does something wrong, you know what I'm saying? Or you can have that, the person that, if you're in a relationship, that person sleeps on the couch. So it's that helps to be that close with the person that's helping you with the content or speaking for you in that regards. But yeah, I think the other thing too is a matter of how confident and what you bring, what you propose to a company that can get you that. Because I think all these companies have the budget. You have to make it make sense to them. So if you come in with very, very professional, hey, we got a video team. We have this. This is the outline of what we plan to do. We need this, that, and the third. They're going to be like, all right, no, this guy's legit now. We have $100,000. Here you go. It's oh, dang, that's all I need to do. You know what I mean? But it's true. I've seen it where, the more professional you are, and feels like it's common sense. But the more professional you are, and the more of an outline and proposal you can bring to a company, the better, more receptive they're going to be to at least considering it, and or just being like, all right, nope, this is what we needed from the very beginning. Here's your unlimited budget, or here's your budget for this thing. I'm speaking sarcastically with these things, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
If you were to launch a product tomorrow, so take off your content creation and influencer hat and become one of these businesses, become a Holly, what would you say the right mix is of content creation? Like, how would you structure, like, are you launching a new set of cylinder heads at Garrett's cylinder head shop? Do you get 100 influencers? Do you get one? Do you get 5? Do you make your own content and work with them? Do you send them product? What do you think, if you were now hiring the influencers, you would build as a super successful program that you know would work?
That's a great question. Obviously, you want to find people that best represent what the product is, first and foremost. You don't, like, because that's the biggest thing you were talking about. You find like 100 influencers. Yeah, you cast a wide net, cool. But if only 4 of them are like hardcore drag racers, or whatever, like if it's cylinder heads or cylinders, let's assume they're drag, for drag race applications or built motor applications. If those people just are putting around town in their Prius, they don't even have a race car, then what do you just because they have a huge following, it's like, oh yeah, follow Garrett Cylinder Shop. How do I know these good cylinders? Versus an Alex Taylor that does, or Morgan Evans that goes and does 100 drag race passes a year, and they're winning. They want to, you want Garrett cylinder heads or cylinders to be on the side of their truck or on the side of their car. They're making passes. Their engine's holding up the entire race season because of that. You know what I mean? So you want to find people, if you're working, if you're talking about finding influencers, you want to find people that are in line with what the product is. Yeah, the casting the net is cool. You're getting brand awareness out there, I suppose. But then there's 100 other cylinder companies out there. How do I know that this one's good just because 100 people are talking about it? I'm not seeing it in action. I'd rather see 2 people that may not even be the biggest influencers, but they're really good at what they do, and they're showing what the product's capable of. I'd rather work with those people. Because then you can, yes, spreading out the budget is better, but it's like if I have a $10,000 budget, let's say that those 2 content creators charge $10,000, but, there's times where, I've had a company say, okay, we only have budget for this one particular thing for $5,000. It's like, okay, that content creator may not give you his full, he or she may not give you, but they can fully do for you for the $10,000, but at least you now have somebody valuable enough to what that product is used for, and now you can spread that 10,000 across 2 good people as opposed to 10 only giving them 1,000 and they only give you 1 post. You know what I'm saying? So it's like figuring out where your money is reached or stretched the furthest and the most effectively, I feel like.
What platforms would you pick? I'm curious. Like, you're largely Instagram, but you're growing.
If we're talking about cylinders and we're assuming it's drag racing, I would say YouTube or Instagram. TikTok would be a third one because I see a lot of I don't know if you guys are on TikTok heavy, but you follow a builder, like a particular content creator, and they're like, their whole channel is them building their car. So like people will follow a build process of a car on TikTok, just like they would YouTube or Instagram, but it's again, short form type stuff. So I think TikTok would be the close third behind Instagram, but I think YouTube, it depends on what you're trying to get ahead. If you want the technical, in-depth look, YouTube. If you want, and honestly, it depends. It just depends on how more active the person is. But I'd say Instagram and TikTok may be head and head when it comes to that shorter form content of just like a build series. They can kind of go, it can be a toss up, I suppose. But yeah, from a technical aspect of things, I'd say YouTube, because it's, again, long form, more in depth for people that are real nerds into knowing, especially if you're building an engine, you want to know like all these little technical specifications of what the cylinders are and their pressures and how much RPM they can handle and da-da-da-da. So yeah.
It's funny how important the platform is, really, because I think if you're starting today, if you could take your followers and port them to any platform.
YouTube.
Why?
Oh man, I mean, because again, You look at the platforms that pay out for the content alone. You're not even talking about brand deals. YouTube's one of the best paying. I think what I was overheard y'all say it's bigger than Netflix and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, what is that guy? I Show Speed, the streamer. He just signed a $600 million contract for 2 years. I don't even know what that entails. Like, what is he doing? I don't know. But he just got paid $600 million by YouTube. That's insane. That's more than LeBron James has made in any 1 year as the best basketball player in the league, you know?
That's a pretty big claim he just made.
Well, I mean,
That's probably true. Yeah.
I'm going to about anymore. Yeah. He's kind of old.
Fans up here.
He's kind of old. I know. He didn't.
So enrage them.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, but I do agree. Like, the YouTubers are clearly the most profitable class right now. If you're a big YouTuber, you're number one. If you're a big TikToker, I don't know about brand deals, but you're definitely making a lot of money on views on TikTok. Yeah. Then you've got Instagram, and then, like, I've never met a Facebook
Snapchat
famous person.
People apparently make
Snapchat. But it's interesting that one, there is different value for each different channel, and two, it is not easy to port from one to the other. We met YouTubers yesterday. Well, they weren't YouTubers. They want to be YouTubers. They were huge TikTok stars, and they can't make that jump. And you know, I think that when we talked about what would be next for Garrett, you know, the long form video content, I think, is so important because that's where Alex did it.
You went through that as a content creator perspective. For me, I'm thinking about the client side too, right? A long form YouTube video that's technical or intricate, or shows it in an amazing, entertaining fashion that pays off for the manufacturer too.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I've seen it where, you know, more people don't have cable television anymore. They don't pay for the streaming services for YouTube TV or whatever the case may be. People watch. They will come home from work if they, you know, still going to the office. They'll come home from work and they'll just put YouTube videos on, and that'll be their entertainment for the evening. You know, so yeah, the long form content definitely has its place. Whether it's entertainment, whether it's informational, whether it's whatever, you know, you're just listening to music. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's just the way that people consume long form content anymore. And again, each platform has its value. You know, everybody, I think, a lot of people now have short-term attention spans. It's just, everybody's a squirrel, man. It's just, there's no, and just a very, like, you're sitting there, you know, you get home from work, you just scroll your phone, or you're in between a meeting and you just scroll your phone. But then, you know, you, like, particularly for me, if I'm, because I do research on products that I'm gonna buy, especially stuff that's expensive. So I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna look up videos on what that product is. I wanna see what people are talking about. And so I may not watch the entire thing unless it's like a really good production. I get to the meat and potatoes of whatever I'm looking for, but that's where I go to find out what, you know, if I wanna buy this thing, or, you know, if this thing is good. So you're not gonna get that on TikTok and Instagram. You may get it in use, but it's a quick little 15-second thing. It's like, that's not telling me anything. I see them using it, but what is it good? You know, I want to know the details of it. So each one, again, has their usefulness. But to your point, yes, I wish, if there's one thing I could go back and do, I wish that I would have put forth the effort that I had with YouTube at the same time I did Instagram. Because again, even if I had half of the followership that I have on YouTube, man, I would be cooling. I'd be okay.
Where are you in the ethos of automotive influencers? Are you a top 10 influencer right now?
Everybody has their thing, you know. I don't categorize myself as any one type of automotive content creator. You know, you got Alex Taylor, she's a drag racer, right? You got Cletus, he's a drag racer, but he does a bunch of other things. That's kind of what he associates himself with primarily. I don't have a title in that sense. I'm not a drag racer. I'm not a road course racer. I don't even build my own cars. I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. You know, I wrench, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather pay somebody or have somebody do it that really knows what they're doing. So I'm kind of an overarching, I do a little bit of everything. I'd like to get to that point, you know. I think a lot of people know who I am. A lot of people know me, but I don't think that I'm like a top 10. You know, I can get there, but I don't think I'm there.
Yeah, we would agree. No.
Gotta keep him humble.
That's your boy right there.
You know, offer rescinded. I'm just kidding.
Talk to us about the next evolution of this, which I think we're all agreeing is events. And we're seeing people build these huge followings and then move into the event space.
Yeah.
Every time we see you here, it's around an event.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got Fox Tech's thing coming up. You were just here for Roadkill Nights. Freiburger's got his own event. Everyone seems to be doing their own events. So where do events fit into the new creator economy? Where did they come from and where do you see them going?
Well, I think the events is an evolutionary thing where it comes, especially when you build a following, people want to meet you. So if you never pop out to anything, then how are people going to, you know, get to that next stage of meeting that person that they follow or they admire or whatever the case may be? It's the same way people wait for tour dates for an artist to come through their town, right? They want to see them perform. So it's the same thing with content creators in a sense, because they follow what you do and they want to meet you. They want to see your vehicle in person or whatever the case may be. So events are mandatory for that in that regards. Whether or not it's your event or you're being a guest at the event, you have to have those in order for the content creators to be continually relevant. You know, because after a while, it's like, all right, well, you know, you want to meet your heroes. I'm not saying I'm anybody's hero, but like you want to meet your, you know, the people that you follow. So I think that the events are the avenue for that. You know, obviously you mentioned like Freiburger and even like Cletus and them, they have their own events. So that's ideal, right? Because you're not having to just get like the guest fee, like the appearance fee. You're profiting all of it, but then you have to bankroll all of it too. So it's kind of an evolution. You got a stepstone to it. You know, there's levels to this, as they say. You can't just jump. I mean, you could, but it's not going to be the greatest event, right? You're going to be shoestringing it. You're going to be asking people for their help and there's people volunteering their time to just help you get it going. But it takes a long time to get to the point where you have an event that's humongous and you're raking in stupid money like Cletus does. I mean, he didn't buy a racetrack overnight. You know, he didn't have the Ultima 500 or whatever the hell he calls it, you know, overnight, you know, where he's buying 50 Ultimas and flying people in for it. So, yeah, I mean, you have to do the guest stuff first, I guess, and then you scale it up. But yeah, events are mandatory because that's where people are like, oh yeah, I get to go meet whoever, you know, or whatever the case may be. So.
And that's another reason it's so important to have a personal brand, right? Because people do want to meet Garrett or Amelia or whoever, right? It's so important. And like, if you're just a brand, you can still do it. Hoonigan did a great job there for a while. Donut, you know, all those guys do. But I do see events becoming more and more critical, especially as AI starts wedging its way in here, right?
I was avoiding the AI conversation.
But yeah, I mean, even to bring it back like Hoonigans and, well, first of all, shout out Amelia Hartford. That's the homie. But like the big box name channels like Hoonigans and Donut, yeah, they had a name, there was a brand, but there was still the personalities underneath it. So Hoonigans, you had Zach, you had Hurt, you had Vin, Brian, and then you got Donut, the same thing. It's just their version of it, same thing. But like they have their people, and when they do the events, people get attached to those individual people. I want to go meet them, man. I want to, I want to go see Zach's that Blazer. That thing's ridiculous. I rode in it. It's actually stupid. But it's yeah. I mean, like you said, it's the personal interaction and the feeling you get of meeting the person that you look up to and you follow their content, and it's a weird feeling. Like I know we touched on that earlier, but it's a weird feeling. So I can only imagine like if I get any bigger and do more things, like what that will feel like. Because now it's just kind of sporadic. It's not everywhere I go. I can't. Like they got I Show Speed. Like Christina and Grant. I don't know if you know them. They're local. They have. I just went to their shop recently, and they had Speed come to. He's part of like his streaming thing he did. He had like I don't know what they call it, but it's like a 35-day thing. He was doing straight streaming. He actually came and visited their shop, and he said that he was moving like the president, like 6 Escalades, and like 3 of them were just secured. I'm like, dude, for what? Why? granted, I know dude just signed $600 million, so somebody probably like kidnap him or something, but like, I never thought that it would ever get to the point where a content creator is having to move like the president. Like, that's actually wild. But, you know, I don't ever want to get to that point. Truly.
Sounds like the Pontiac Police Department they were going to give a little extra security for Garrett this afternoon. Did you hear anything about this?
I did hear a little bit about that. Yeah, you did get a police escort here, actually.
Like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that was good.
Yeah.
Shout out Pontiac PD. Yeah.
We love you guys.
Keeping the streets safe. I love it.
From me taking legal turns.
No, he was cool. It wasn't that deep, but I don't know.
It was kind of deep though.
It could have been. It's funny though. Like, I had a feeling like the interaction obviously was really good when he walked up to the window, and I just told him, you know, obviously I apologize for whatever I did, and I was like, you know, whatever. And then he was like, you know, he asked me about the truck, and I was just like, yeah, you know, Ford loaned it to me for the, you know, content, whatever. And he told him about my Instagram. I don't know if he looked it up in the truck or not, or is it Cruiser? But like, he comes back and he's like, I see you from out of town, and I don't want to jam you up, but just make sure you follow me. I'm like, yes, sir. Kept pushing, but
I love it.
It's a good story.
yeah,
Pontiac, baby.
yeah, they don't care. We'll do a burnout when I leave.
What else we got? I feel like we've covered a lot.
Where's I think we've touched this, but in 5 years, what does your empire look like?
So the thing that's funny is, like, many people have thought that social media was just going to fizzle out a long time ago, right? Obviously, that's not happened. It's transcended time for quite a while, and I don't foresee it going. You guys can probably tell me if you think so otherwise, but like, I don't foresee it going anywhere anytime soon. Now, AI is the only thing that's kind of like the weird, you know, caveat to the whole thing, but there's always going to be media needed to be consumed. And like we said, short-term content is very prominent. And then people that are looking for long-term content is very prominent. And you're not going to find that anywhere else but YouTube and these social media platforms. So with that being said, because I started late putting myself out there, I don't think I'm working on the same, like, I don't know why I'm using this term, like doomsday clock of sorts, like relevancy clock that other people have been using since they started, because they started using their face and as them 12 years ago, right? You're having to look at that same person for 12 years and it's like the content could have fallen off. For me, I've only really been Garrett for the last 5 years. So to jump now into that YouTube space for the long form content and like really entertaining content, whatever it is, I feel like my clock is a lot longer than it could have been if I started way back when. I'd have had to either maintain or evolve over the course of the last 12 years versus starting now. I'm starting basically fresh on a whole new platform. It's like, yeah, people may know Garrett, but they don't really know Garrett because I'm doing a whole different thing. So I'm working with a whole nother play clock now. I may have 15 years of this now. If I start, beginning of next year, I may have 15 years of long form content that I can play with. Who knows? But I ideally would like to, obviously build my YouTube, really just like get proper content from all the different events that I'm already being invited to. I feel like I'm shorting everybody and myself because, like we just mentioned, I got invited to the Mustang GTD event or drive event. I didn't have anybody with me. I had to rely on, while I'm trying to soak in this whole experience, right? I'm in Palm Springs. I'm at Thermal Club, which is a private, owners only club. So getting to drive that alone is cool. And then I'm driving a $350,000 or whatever it is dollar Mustang that only 3,000 people in the world will own from the very beginning. And if I would have driven one beyond the media drive, I would have only got to drive on the street. So I wouldn't have gotten the full experience of what the car is capable of. So I got to drive it on the track. Sadly, do I have the best content that I could have had from that event? No. But I can say that I've been there. I can tell you my experiences, but you won't get to see it to what it should have been. So that's what I'm hoping to be able to expound on, is like still getting invited to the events because of the relationships that I have, but putting out and providing the content that's necessary and deserved from those experiences. Like Le Mans. Dude, if I had just one video guy to just follow me around and show the experience of what Le Mans is, dude, that is a bucket list thing for every car person. And I got to go to it. I'm like, I still can't believe it, you know? But did I get to document it like I wanted to? No. You know, I took as many pictures as I possibly could, but that's not what people want to see. They want to see the behind the scenes of me walking around and doing the grid walk. That's where people used to do the running start to the Shelbys and stuff. Like I realized, and I soaked all that in. I was like, man, I'm standing in history right now, but I can't express it really how it should be expressed. So that's what I hope to be able to do going forward, is like really documenting all these wild events that I get to go to. You know what I mean?
I just want to, we're going to wrap this up, I think. I just want to tell Garrett how incredibly proud I am. I knew you as a little kid, man, and now you're grown up, you're in your 30s, and I love to see what you got going on, and I cheer for you all the time, and I can't wait to see what this next chapter is going to be for you. So
I do appreciate
thank you for making me so proud of you, buddy.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.